Peter.
All
right.
I'm having trouble getting word of
I am not.
I've never heard that
I don't either.
I'm helping her get one.
We'll give this 1 minute, just to have the health services chair get loaded.
Get loaded.
And
I'm helping.
we'll start. Wi-Fi online.
Right now?
I did.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, good, thank you. Okay,
You're good.
I'm good.
All right, welcome everyone to the committee meetings for Wednesday, March 3rd. We will be recording this because we do have some members on Zoom, and then we'll post it to the YouTube channel afterwards. We do have 4, 5, 6, 10, 11 of the 14 legislators are in person. And thank you for your patience for the last couple of months to get through the time of this pandemic that we were in. We were at a high of about 12.3% on our positivity rate. So the Tim Captain was grateful to see us go to a remote format, as challenging as it was at times. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started, and hopefully we can stay in-person meetings here. It's a heck of a lot easier to get things done. So we'll start off with Health Services Committee.
Good evening, everybody. We'll open the Health Services Committee meeting at 6:04 p.m. We have 3 resolutions this evening. And our first resolution is amending resolution number 239-19, authorizing contract Greene County with Greene County Emergency Medical Systems, Inc.
Want discussion?
We just want to see if anybody wants to discuss or we want to make a motion.
Motion first.
You want a motion at
I'm
first
sorry.
and then a second and then discussion?
Okay.
Madam
Well, first we
Chair,
have to, we
I'm
are.
not on your committee, but I know that,
Charlie,
Mark,
Sorry. They want to make a, I have to make a motion
one
first.
second.
go ahead.
Motion second, and then we have to discuss it. Anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion, Patty.
Jack already made the motion. Tommy Hobart will second it.
Correct.
Okay. So I wanted to make an amendment to this amendment. The 4th paragraph, whereas this has proven to be a financial burden to our towns, and the Greene County Legislature wishes to further amend resolution number 239-19 as follows. I think it's kind of misleading, that sentence. I think it really should read, whereas this has proven to be a financial burden on the town of Catskill. It's not on our towns. It's misleading. It makes it seem like it's all 14 towns. So I would like to make a motion to amend it to read Catskill.
There's no other towns that think.
There is, and let me just hold your motion for a second, because I'll explain it a little bit as far as I understand it. I was involved when this was all set up, but yes, Matt, there is only one town that pays mutual aid charges to Greene EMS. The other 12 of the other 13 towns, because Calcott, you can't get there from here, so they're not part of Greene EMS. The other 12 towns all write a check to Greene EMS every year under contract. So they base that check every year off of their previous year's call volume. I know for the town of Baltimore, it's about $29,000. Roughly $290 to $300 per call is what that contract charge is for the town. So yes, town of Catskill is the only one that pays a mutual aid charge. I did talk with Mark from Greene EMS. This same mutual aid charge also exists if they share services between Columbia and Greene County EMS or Albany County EMS. So if Albany County has to come into Greene County, they bill Greene EMS for that mutual aid charge. We go to Columbia County, they bill Columbia County for that mutual aid charge. So I do think the resolution is not only misleading, but there's not really a benefit here to the county taxpayers my opinion on it.
How was it set, the contracts with these individual towns with Green EMS? Are they all paying a flat percentage?
They're doing the percentage of the
By
call.
population.
No, it's a percentage of the call volume for what the overall fee is. I want to say at this point, it's a little over 300,000-ish. So they take that 300,000, they divide it by the number of calls that Green EMS had, and then each town pays whatever their call volume was for the year. So their average was roughly $290 to $300 per call. Baltimore runs about 100 calls with Green EMS, coming to the $29,900 fee that they write the check for. If their call volume drops, their check drops. If their call volume goes up, the check goes up. What really hasn't changed very much is that $300,000 number that the towns collectively pay. The county picks up the rest of the balance.
All right.
Just a question, Pat, or Patty. What if you just put down as a financial burden to our residents and the Greene County legislator wishes to amend? Not specifying down.
I'm not sure I follow. Are you talking about taking away the 300,000 and have the county just make that up?
No, I'm saying where she wants to take this sentence out and have the town of Catskill, if you just leave it that this is a financial burden to our residents. And the Greene County legislature
Only the
that
town.
is specified.
Right, but this resolution is specific to the town of Catskill, Tom.
Right.
It's not Green County.
Okay.
The other 13 counties, it
All
is
right,
specific to Catskill. And that's where I
all
think,
right, I see what you're saying.
right, it kind of makes everybody think the entire county would benefit from this.
So Patty, this is going to lead to the next question. Catskill is in the red and its ambulance ALS service. If Catskill gives up its ALS, what's it going to cost the county? Have Green EMS cover Catskill now, which was 40% of the calls. That will be a burden to the county residents.
I guess it could be, but I don't know if they've had that discussion. Ones that contract the towns with Green EMS.
Well, the problem is, Pat, is Catskill is paying 17% of the Green EMS budget right now, which is about $260,000. We're not using the service. When we use the service, we pay the mutual aid.
Well, on that fee, in particular, every town is paying the same levy as Catskill. They're county taxpayers, but the levy's the same.
No. Every town is different. 17%
Your tax
is
rate,
Catskill's
your tax rate is the same.
The rate per thousand is the same. The amount that each would be charged would be based upon their assessment for
Right,
each
so
town.
then what's New Baltimore paying? Let's use New Baltimore. What's New Baltimore paying towards Green EMS?
I don't have that,
I
but
don't have enough
Or Carroll or Durham or wherever. They're not paying 260,000 like Catskill is.
no, but they don't,
They don't have the
they don't
population.
represent
The assessment.
17% of the assessed valuation. The assessed valuation of the town
Right,
is 17% of the county.
that's right.
And so another town may be 6% of that alarm, so they would only pay 6% of the ambulance Green EMS bill.
They're all paying the same
They're
rate.
saying the same rate, but because the evaluations are higher or lower, the bill goes higher or lower.
Okay, but still Catskill's paying the largest share.
Uh,
By Green
Wyndham
EMS.
and Catskill may be almost the same.
So
but it's-
maybe there needs to be a tax credit on our budget worksheet if you're taking that deduction out of the taxes. Like that.
Well, the service is still available to the town of Catskill.
Patty, I'm not on your committee, but Mark Evans and the supervisor of the town of Catskill involved. So maybe we should get Mark down here before you go pushing this through or whatever. That's my recommendation, not on your committee, but that's my.
I wish you were, sorry.
Pardon
I
me?
wish you were on that committee.
And Charlie, it's not a bad suggestion because there's another fly in the ointment here with the stimulus bill at the federal level. It's passed through the House and has not passed the Senate. But I was on a Zoom call today with Delgado, Congressman Delgado. It looks like if this passes at the current funding levels, the town of Catskill is going to receive $2.1 million to be able to make up any losses from COVID, any expenses incurred, those types of things. So you're right. It would probably not be a bad idea to hold off on this, at least for a while, because they may have some opportunities to make up some of what you just said they were in the red. They may have the opportunity to reimburse some of that funding.
I do, I get that, Pat, but once again, I know a lot of governments are waiting for that stimulus money, but it's just printed money that your grandkids are gonna pay back.
True enough.
And why? Because someone else will? I mean, this is a bigger picture of mentality of where we are and how we govern and how we set ourselves up and how we fund ourselves is. We get and take from one to hurt them, so we don't hurt on this end. And I think there's something very wrong with that. And so this goes back to Catskill's putting into something it's not receiving. It goes back to if people are using the service, let them pay for the service. If the 12 other towns are using that service, let them pay for that service.
They are.
We added, no, but they're not fully compared to what Catskill is.
They're paying the same rate.
They're paying the same percentage.
Every other town pays the same rate as the town of Catskill. But I don't know what the mutual aid charge is in comparison.
It's like $5,200 this past year on Catskill.
That's building,
I think Catskill paid $5,200 or something.
probably more than that. It's
Should be around 70.
25 or 30,000 on the tax bill. It's $500 a call. 500 something dollars. a call.
Yeah.
So
I
there
thought they
weren't that
I thought
many
they had like 8 calls, 9 calls, 10 calls.
Year to date or 2020?
I think 2020.
That was
But
that.
my point is we went, we put a fly car for our need up on the mountaintop. We took money from our sales tax reserve, basically, to fund that. Okay, take out it, pull that out, all right, fund that for that year, all right? Now Catskill is in danger of possibly saying, we have to give up our ALS, we can't do this any longer. Then budget for green EMS is gonna go for maybe 1.5 million, because they might need a car or to serve maybe 2 cars in order for to keep everybody's in the other towns, their rate of response the same. I don't think anybody wants a longer response time in other towns.
But I think, Mike, we also need to think about, first of all, I do have some of those green EMS response to Catskill in 2018, 60 requests, sometimes that line.
500.
So that was 30,000.
2019, November 1st, there were 35 requests from green EMS to respond to Catskill. But the interesting number was Catskill provided mutual aid to the other towns also. So in 2018, there was 120 mutual aid calls that Catskill helped out other towns. And in 2019, as of November 1st, there were 64 calls. I don't have last year's data.
Right.
Well, they have a contract with Athens. They are the
Mutual aid to other towns, not just Athens. They contract with Athens.
Okay,
So
so,
this is mutual aid that was given to other towns, I'm guessing besides Athens, because Athens already has a contract with the town of Catskill.
so then were they billed?
Is
Were
that
they
all?
invoiced?
I'm not the town supervisor, so I don't have that information, but I don't know what their mutual aid agreements are with other towns. I don't think, is there mutual aid agreements where they charge? I thought they all help each other.
There is on the state level. I don't know if it's down at the county level.
I think they all
Is
help each
there-
other.
Was there anything there on mutual aid in? Or other in the Catskill?
Nope, it was mutual aid given, mutual aid received from other from others. There's numbers from others.
Yeah.
Responses to nursing homes, responses to assisted living facilities. You know, and that's the other piece. I mean,
So that's reciprocal.
Catskill has all of the nursing homes that service all of our county residents. We have all these, basically, you know, that the town of Catskill ambulance is provided to, you know, people that are living in those facilities that really weren't Catskill residents, but they come to Catskill to live there.
Well, I don't think that's any different than when Catskill went to do their own ALS in the beginning.
Right, no, I
There's no
agree.
change there.
I just think that, again, it's, you know, the Catskill taxpayer is paying for a service that we're not receiving on our county taxes. Plus, we're paying a service for our mutual aid to Green EMS every year. We need tax twice.
Well, I think every town is paying a check every year on top of their county taxes.
Well, I understand that because it's not the county is not an ambulance business. You know, the towns are in the ambulance business. Maybe the county needs to be in the ambulance business, but that's gonna make our budget go through the roof. If we are in the ambulance business.
Well, I
We're
mean,
providing support for towns that, you know, need extra support for advanced life support because they can't support themselves.
well, then we don't have a hospital.
Okay, well, we could say we don't have a lot of things. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's
who
where.
who
that's where
runs the
we're-
hospital? Yeah, what other county has hospitals that are run by county government?
I don't know.
Right, so again, you know, I can't say that, you know, because we don't have a hospital.
Well, I'm just looking at clear numbers. If maybe, like you said, Charlie, you get Mark Evans in here, kind of do a synopsis of what would be required, because Catskill's gonna make a decision down the road here. They're not gonna continue to run in the red, and because their budget is tight as can be now, like Pat, you said, they may get stimulus money or something, and it helps alleviate it, but that's gonna eat away. That problem is not going to go away,
Sure,
so.
sure, but it would give them the
It's
time.
not a long-term solution to the deficit.
Right, it would give them the time to come to a decision.
I think Charlie bring on Mark. I really do. I think that's a good plan.
I think we do need to hear from Commissioner Evans because we haven't heard from him since 2019. You know, when he sent us that email, February 15th, 2019, talking about how he felt that we didn't need, you know, that additional flight bar. You know, up on the mountain where he had said solving a BLS issue on the mountaintop was an expensive and scarce resource. for the medic department, not a good use. Or he said alternatives exist, so I would like to get at least a report from, you know, Green EMS. We haven't had monthly, we used to get monthly reports when Aiden was here. Send us monthly.
Does the chair of the committee agree with Charlie saying? I think it makes sense.
Could we also invite the Catskill supervisor at that meeting, give his point, both of them together?
Yeah, I think it's a bigger discussion
I think they should have.
Yeah,
between Catskill and
Yes.
Green EMS as far as call volumes and what that would take
Okay.
to make up the difference, not even so much us. You know, because the other part of the discussion is when Catskill got out of the Green EMS system and did their own ALS, the town portion at that time was a little over $500,000. And we took on the 200,000, like you said,
Right.
to make sure the fourth truck stayed on and not getting rid of it and covering the county with 3 trucks, which would have put us in a position where that truck may not have even been available to win the Catskill mutual aid. So do we then bring the town share back up if the town of Catskill comes back in?
Right, so the trick to that is, Pat, is right now, Catskill's in the red. Matt, and we discussed with the town supervisor, so Catskill's contributing 260,000 to the Green EMS budget. Say we need 2 more cars, and that's figure, you gotta figure that's 850,000. If they take over ALS in Catskill. I'm not a fan of that. I like 2 people in the business because you get a comparison of what things are gonna be. Now, I know that a not-for-profit Green EMS can operate that, but they are receiving salaries. They are paying themselves. So they will continue to pay themselves, and they'll pay themselves more if they have a monopoly. It's just nature. And that's how it works.
Wyndham is also ALS.
And so my point is, if it's 800 or 850,000, right? And we can get by, this is at a county level, and we can get by with the county shuffling the 260 to Catskill to keep its ALS, which is was handling, or is now handling the 40% of the calls across the county, basically, if you take Green EMS and Catskill ALS. Catskill ALS should be 40% of the calls, because that's what it was for a number of years when Green EMS was doing ALS in Catskill area. So 850 or 260. What would the county do? They could still keep the ALS by moving the 260 back to Catskill, make them whole, help them make them whole, and continue with their BLS, which they have, and their ALS, which they have combined in the ambulance. So Catskill is sending the ambulance with an ALS. They're immediately right there. You're going somewhere. Other towns, I don't know if paramedics get there first and then they have to wait for BLS. Sometimes, maybe, I don't know in other towns.
And I think the town supervisor had said that, because of that, they might take off one extra car that's been sitting around for mutual aid call.
Right.
And that's a possibility.
Who would take off extra car?
The town supervisor, the town council,
Oh, you mean take one ambulance off?
take an extra rig out of the system.
Out of the
Just after-
equation.
Right. so it's all mutual aid call.
I think also he feels that, they normally keep, one vehicle at
It's a spare.
Catskill. And there's times with different situations that might have to go out, and then EMS comes in if we need a thing. But I'd also like to, somebody could look into the map. Okay, I understand that approximately 17% of the population lives in the town of Catskill, okay? But when you take population of all 14 towns and put a percentage as to how many times the county EMS responds versus how many times the town of Catskill has to use the county EMS, and look at it as a percentage. And I don't know, I don't have those numbers, but I have a feeling that if we can figure that out, the amount of times that Catskill has to use the county services is disproportionate to what we're paying to the county EMS.
It's not disproportionate because, as I said, the county taxpayers in Catskill are paying the same rate as every other town.
But my
But
point is,
every other town writes a check to Green EMS every year,
but percentage-wise,
except Catskill.
Because they
Catskill
rely on
uses?
that service. Catskill is not using that. service.
that's it.
Well,
That's the difference.
they're using it to some extent because this is what this resolution is for, is to not charge that.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
my other point is even by moving, as you suggested, take the county taxpayer money in from Catskill and then redistribute it back to Catskill through a contract or whatever.
Right.
That doesn't change the fact,
Catskill's still gonna pay 17% no matter what.
And I do
well,
have.
no, they wouldn't. If you're gonna contract with them, they're gonna pay it, but it's gonna come right back to them.
Right. Right. 17%, not of the two, every year, Catskill pays 17% of Green EMS's budget. That will come around, and that 260 would then go and pay for Catskill ALS.
So should I do the
The
same?
rest of the
should we-
county,
Should we do the same then for all the other towns?
whatever towns are using it, if they're not using the service, then absolutely.
Well, they're using the service, just like Catskill's using the service, but they're not getting billed unless they use it.
Right.
It's the same situation with the other towns. They're getting billed as they use it. They're
Right.
getting billed based on their call volume.
And Catskill taxpayers are paying for that.
Right.
They're paying through their county taxes, which we provide the Green EMS budget every year to our county tax dollars, and they're paying mutual aid town taxes. So in 2020,
But
there
our
were
towns are
10
also paying that.
in 2020, there was 10 calls. Green EMS responded to Catskill with 10 calls. Catskill EMS responded to other towns, 77 calls, 19 to Caro, 48 to Coxsackie, 7 to Hunter, 2 to Plunkett County, and 1 unknown. That was in 2020.
I don't want, I think definitely what Charles said, have Mark come in and have Dale Finch, who's the town supervisor, come in and have a discussion or a workshop on this, but I'm just thinking the dollars, if Catskill gets out, their BLS, and requests green EMS for ALS, it's gonna cost the county a lot more than the 260.
Well, it's probably gonna cost what Catskill should be budgeting if they were running it and.
Well, they're already paying their ALS through their town budget,
But they're not breaking even.
but they're not breaking even, right?
So that's what I'm saying. You're taking a town budget problem and putting it to the county to solve.
No, I know what we're doing.
At the end of the day, the funding is still short if you get the same money.
It's being invested now. If you want to take 260 and minus their mutual aid out of that 260, that's a wash. And Catskill's paying for a service through their town taxes and not paying for their service that they're not using, which is ALS or EMS.
But it's not just the 260, it's also the 200 that the rest of the county taxpayers made up when Catskill got out. The town portion that Catskill used to pay.
Right, so
You've got to add that there too.
So you said right now it's about 300,000 total that the total rest of the 12 towns are paying.
Roughly, yeah.
So 300,000. So before that, Catskill was paying 200,000 of the 300,000?
No, 500,000. They had 40%, roughly 40%.
We picked it up and they went up.
They had 40% of the fall volume, 40% of the half million.
We picked it up as the 14th district,
Yeah,
Correct.
Well, the county, the county.
Yeah, the county.
including Catskill.
Including Catskill.
Correct.
Yeah, well,
Well, I'm saying, so
legislators,
yeah, perhaps on the, that's why I'm saying a reasonable solution would be on the end of the year budget worksheet, that little thing that says credits. You know, whatever that is, that money then is distributed to the other 13, sections on your budget worksheet.
How to get it.
Fact.
It's kind of halfway useful. We put an edge on it, clean it up, nice and thick, like we have here.
And table this resolution until we can get Mark Evans
Isn't
in
there
here?
credits on our budget worksheet every year? That would break down with the,
there's no credit from the green.
there
EMS.
is, there
That's a
is.
contract.
Well, no, I'm saying that would be where it could be divided then amongst the other towns that are giving the service. So like, for example, there was money that was the correction. With the, what was that? Some type of star exemption, wasn't there a correction, something like that? I'll bring it in and I'll fill it.
The green EMS cost is a contracted cost. There's no credit at the end of the green EMS.
On the spot, one of those deals, right now.
Oh,
Well, we know we can start with gray and white.
there needs to be a bigger discussion between the town of Catskill and green EMS to figure out what the needed for green EMS, because I don't know what their call volume is now. I would venture a guess that the town of Catskill's percentage of calls would be lower, because we have a lot more residents now up on the mountaintop than what we ever had. And I can tell you those two ambulance crews up there, and three actually, Ashland, Wyndham, and Hunter, run like mad. So I think that percentage of call volume would be down a little bit in Catskill now. But, the numbers are what they are. If they're not getting enough volume to bill and getting enough reimbursements back.
Right.
I'm not sure that changes.
Well, I get that, but when you look at that extra car on the mountaintop is another $400,000. That Catskill's paying 17% of.
But that was a legislative decision. That's a county-wide legislative decision that decided.
I get that. So it may come before a county decision again down the road here. Where we have to fund more cars. Or maybe we'll just move in 260 and keep Catskill in place. The county-wide lose 800,000 out of our savings pocket, or we lose 260. What do you do? What do you
Yeah, I don't agree with the math that you had there.
Well, I'm just saying, if it's two cars or one
The
and a
extra
half.
car was a fund-wide decision. The decision to take Catskill ambulance from ALS to provide their own ALS was a town decision.
Well, I get that, Pat, but it is going to become a county decision again. And you're gonna have to decide if you wanna have to take 800,000 out of your pocket or 260,000?
We did a whole task force on this, Mike, for years, and it got shot down. And it got shot down
There was a lot of work put into that, too.
because the three towns in the center of the county, Catskill, Carroll, and Durham, didn't want to join in. And the feasibility of being able to make the system work financially was then taken out. You couldn't do it because Catskill and Carroll really had the highest goal line. And that's where we were. We knew at that time,
Carroll's contracted with Green EMS.
right,
I don't think he
this was for the countywide ambulance system.
too busy.
Would have put ALS ambulances countywide.
So nice and clean.
4 years on this.
A large.
5 years. Bill, it was several years that we spent on it, and it wound up nowhere because the towns couldn't agree.
Do you remember back then, though, what the bill would have been? Wasn't it over $6
It
million?
was about 6.5 million or 6.7 million
Back then.
countywide
Yeah.
for ALS ambulances countywide.
Right.
And that was a similar expense to what was being paid for all the towns for NBS costs
Right.
at that time.
Well, I know the thing is, it's a stick, but that's.
I haven't heard any other town request since that point provide BLS.
Boogered up.
County doesn't
The
ALS.
county doesn't provide BLS. The county
I know,
doesn't
but
provide it.
we haven't heard since then. The remedy was to contract with Green EMS for ALS. We haven't heard on the other side that from towns, at least my town, that they want a countywide ALS.
I don't know that you've heard it in those words, but I do think you've heard it in seeing ambulance services in the county that have gone out of business. How many up on the mountaintop went out? Did-
Oh, yeah, they go on, they will. Now they want to.
That went out of business.
Greenville won it years ago.
Greenville wanted in, but then they turned it down at the town board level.
Right.
Well, because there was a big, Greenville wanted in on it as a countywide system, but coming in just to do Greenville and Woodstock.
Right, it was Greenville, Cooksaki, and New Baltimore. Were gonna do that.
Was,
This is.
but at that level, the expenses was too big. Like you said, the savings were there for the whole county.
Right.
For just, you know, you take away the whole county, the savings are not there.
It's the economies of scale.
The mountaintop here, I mean, Hunter wanted it.
So I don't think you've heard anybody say we want the county to provide BLS, but I've definitely seen where the towns are, they want help. That are out there, and it's, we knew this was gonna rear its head again, and all that, that's from done, because the problem has never gone well.
Take it to a whole different level. Plastics not.
Well, I'm just saying, right now, for the largest town, which years ago represented the county's goal for ALS, solution is 260,000, potentially, or whatever it might be to keep Catskill ALS rolling along, handling it, serving the ALS needs of Catskill residents who are also county residents. So we are doing our job for 260. Or we may do our job and decide, well, if Catskill's gonna go out, it might be 800,000. Just seems to me that the money difference,
How far in the red are they?
I don't know, I'm not sure if
It's not substantial.
it's not a substantial amount, but it could be. I think we started with 260 because 260 is what Catskill's contributing, as Catskill residents are contributing to.
That's just a math of them.
Just a math
The
thing.
1.5 million contract with Green EMS, 17% of that is
So what-
the,
So just for clarification, my friend had that what I was talking about. This document that shows the rate, percentages and the numbers, all of this.
Half this edge like that.
That's what I'm saying.
See how it's a rounded edge and it's wood? And it's white, I mean, look how nice the.
Whoever's on Zoom speaking, can you mute yourself, please?
So Pat, I agree. Get Mark Evans, Dale Finch, and then get them in here even. Well, is we can build on ALS, keep that going, all right, and continue ALS and Catskill also. To do that, because they're one in the same. They don't have a fly car paramedic.
Right,
They're ambulance, paramedic in the same vehicle.
but not all their ambulances are staffed ALS.
No, but my point is you don't have ALS getting there and then waiting potentially for BLS. It's one and the same to get in there. Well, something for everybody to think about. And we might have some numbers. Dale, well, I'm certain will give us some numbers of what they are in the red. See what you want to do.
I just don't know when you want to do this, but I would think Reed via Mr. Evans would need to put numbers together of what it would cost for him to absorb the town. You know, and then the response time is going to be an issue, but I'm sure he's going to say, well, if you had one car, it's going to be 400,000 on your back, but your response time is going to either go up or down because they're responding to so many calls down here. So does that mean you got to have two cars, which is 800,000, in order to maintain a consistent response time across the town?
Well, I think that's what you were thinking, is that the legislators from all the other towns, the districts, don't certainly want to see their response time go down or take longer to get to, you know, people's needs.
Right.
And we want to keep that the same. So I think that's got to be the broad base is, Mark, we want to try to keep the response times in the other towns right where they are real close anyway. And then let him figure out, well, I need two, or I mean, I can do it with one, whatever. But
Yeah, I mean, logistically, I think Green EMS does a great job at staging the cars around the county to make sure they get the best
Yeah,
response
I
time.
think they
No
provide a
doubt.
great service to these towns.
Yeah,
So that would, but that's their call is to, you know, even as much as, you know, where do you house another truck or two
Right.
trucks? Is it someplace in a municipal building where there's no rent, or do you have rent? You know, those are all costs that are going to be figured in.
right.
So I don't think it's a quick amount of figuring for Mark to do. Then is where that discussion needs to take place.
First, do you think next month's meeting, health services, we can go into it?
I don't know if it's big enough for a workshop, to tell you the truth. I'm not sure if you want to spend
Okay.
this amount of dialogue on a committee. I think you want to have a special night.
And
Yeah,
you may have-
especially since we didn't get his budget, you know, in 2020.
We're under contract.
We got a three-year budget.
Right, but
Right,
he
3 years.
used to provide us with some, like I have reports every year in my folder. 2016, 17, 18.
He submits an annual report, it's probably online. Oh, with COVID, we shut down all our presentations.
Well, we used to get an email.
I agree, maybe a workshop, I don't know when we can do it, or what works for everybody.
I think the key will be is Mark and Dale getting together, because I think there's gonna be a number of alternatives. It could be option one, option two, option three. They gotta have those numbers, they gotta, and we have the fourth week this month. We could do it then, I'm sure they could probably do some estimates together by then.
And town of Catskill may have some answers on the signals too, that may take some of the urgency out.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a temporary solution.
It's absolutely,
Yeah.
but it would give them the time to have these discussions.
And let's not forget, Green EMS received a number of prestigious awards over the last couple of years. And they're a model for other counties. Look at us. I mean, an outstanding service that they provide. We're very lucky to have Green EMS.
Whether this resolution said town of Catskill or not, I disagree that it's unfair to the town of Catskill. I believe that all the county taxpayers pay the same rate for the system to be there on an amount that not necessarily this board, but the legislature agreed on. And then the rest of the towns write a check every year. But that's no different than the town of Catskill only paying for what they're using the system for. And that's just how I see it. I don't see it as being unfair. That's not to say that I would disagree if the town of Catskill understood that they were not or they were losing too much money in doing ALS and they needed to go back into the system. I had no problem with that discussion, but I don't feel it's unfair the way the billing is. I think every town is treated the same.
I get that, Pat. I just say it's unfair for Catskill because they're not using the service. You are using the service in New Baltimore and you're paying for it. But we're not using the service, and when we do, we pay the mutual aid costs to them. You don't in New Baltimore pay the mutual aid costs. You just pay a
You pay the
contract.
contract costs.
Right. So that's my look at it as being unfair because we're not using a service that we're paying into.
Well,
Now,
without
once
the
again, that's
county-
the town decision. The town, like you said, 5-6 years ago, could have went with Green EMS to handle their ALS, but they thought they could do a better job. Now, maybe they are doing a better job. I don't know. But, you know, you gotta really look into both organizations and their, you know, spreadsheets to see who's, you know, more efficient or whatever. But, I just think everybody in this room needs to take into account that down the road, if it continues, that Catskill may look to say, we're gonna give it up and our budget's gonna go a lot higher, as opposed to a lot higher than 260,000, I can tell you.
Well, as it stands now, that system doesn't exist if the county's not putting forward the amount that we're putting forward. It doesn't exist for anybody. Even if you wanted to take it, it doesn't matter. Because it wouldn't be there.
Is there any metric to measure the value of availability? I mean, whether they use it or not, it's nice to know it's there if you need it. I mean, they do use it, so there wouldn't be mutual aid claims. Asked a point earlier about when you don't have a hospital, you better have good ambulance.
That's where this was born from, back in the 90s.
Sorry, Patty.
Schedule.
No, I did not lose control. Everything was under control.
So we do have we had a motion, and we have a motion to amend. And
I think the chairwoman wants to table it.
do we want
Yeah.
to, now, then I'm gonna need a motion to table it this time, I guess.
Can I make that motion?
Actually, she can table it. She can
She
do
can
it
do that
herself.
on her own? Okay. And-
I want to table it.
You go, Pat.
Wait, powerful. Yes, I think we should table that and we'll get Mark. We'll do a workshop with Mark and maybe between that time, Mark and Dale will also get together and.
Yeah, it's a much bigger discussion if it's gonna morph into something
I
different.
agree.
Very good.
Okay. All right, moving on. Second resolution, authorizing advertisement for bids, Green County Transportation of Children with Disabilities.
Boomer.
Boomer. Sarah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any discussion? That's carried.
I'm sorry, Chairman. It's an FYI, this is an expensive contract.
Yes.
And if COVID is gonna really hang around, it may amend the style of transportation that we're providing. You can't gang on cars because of the proximity of the car.
Mhm.
Because schools have been in varying stages of closure right now. I don't think our bill has really been very expensive because some schools are closing their own building or whatever. COVID's really going on for a long time, but as the rules change, this could be.
Mhm.
Are we required to do this?
Yeah, this is really convoluted because this is transportation basically at school.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's zero, there's two different groups. There's a 0 to 2 group, age group, and then a 2 to 5. Why the, typically school are in business, not the county, but the way this is written by the state, the county's one of the, will just. Really should be ours. It really should be. We're not in this.
This is one that I think last year we did an emergency order, so we didn't have to go to bid.
We had a renewal on it, and, yeah, and we also had contractors who were at various stages of, if you will. For the longest time, you only had one bidder. Right now. May actually. Yeah, we put bids in our-
So what kind of, is this on the ratepayers of Green County, or is this getting reimbursed
No, it's
from anything?
This is our. I don't think you have a driver, you have a nurse. That's not John, 'cause I just.
No,
texted him.
he unmutes himself.
That's all right, I only comment on that. You related.
No, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay. Last one. Budget amendment, Green County Public Health, Green County Family Planning, and Green County Early Intervention.
Davis.
Davis, second.
Keller.
Keller, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We do have Kim Kaplan on the line with us tonight. Hi, Kim.
Hi, can you hear me?
Fun.
Do you have any questions?
We got a pod today.
Get a pod today?
They're back. It's hard for me to hear the different discussions, but yes, there was a vaccine first dose pod today, this evening, and there was also testing at the county building.
I just had a question. I've had several people ask me about quarantining after receiving both vaccines. I spoke to something today, but I've seen something from East Greenbush School that, they posted publicly that if you have both vaccines, you don't have to quarantine. The state is saying one thing, the CDC is saying another thing. I know that if the state is not accepting the CDC guidelines, is there a way that our public health or maybe Pat or Sean?
This issue just came up this week.
Okay.
Because we sit in the control room on Friday afternoon, and I've had it heard me ask this very question of our control room more than once. And the answer has been, if you received your second dose and you waited your 14-day period, you do not have to quarantine if you are exposed by another person. DOH had a different ruling on that. So I actually got a contact name from Kim, gave that to our control room people. So the state now is contacting another state agency. And the control room has now come back and changed their decision, saying that teachers, this started because Coxsackie had a positive student. And I think 9 teachers had to be quarantined, even though they've all had their second dose and have had beyond the 14 days. DOH is still saying, well, you may not get the virus yourself, but you carry it. Therefore, go home and quarantine.
What about travel restrictions?
Who the hell's doing that?
Same thing with travel.
Well, that just got changed today. So at spring break, if you want to go to Florida, you can, and you don't have to be tested on your leave or your return. If you've had 2 doses.
Within 90 days of your second dose.
Within 90 days of your second dose.
So, but I was told that the CDC is saying that you don't have to quarantine after the CDC.
They may say that, but New York State Health Department is not agreeing with that.
So is there a way that we as a county can say that we would like to back the CDC and maybe the state needs to look at the CDC guidelines?
Yeah, and the only thing we get, or we've been told so far, is it's being looked at. They expect guidance to be forthcoming,
So perhaps.
but that's probably been for 2 weeks.
Right, so I know, I don't want to sound pushy, but maybe we need to be pushy and say every day we ask that same question, is when is this going to happen? Because we have a lot of people that have been vaccinated, and why are we quarantining after we have the vaccine, especially when the CDC is saying otherwise? They're the Center for Disease Control. Other states don't have that. Why is New York State?
States are sovereign.
Yeah, and our public health
And
department is
do we have-
licensed through
Do we have
DOH.
any local control in terms of our public health to make that statement that we're following the CDC guidelines?
No, they're licensed by Department of Health. They have to follow Department of Health guidelines.
So then I think we as a county should be pushing back to the governor's representative every day.
Yep.
On your call saying, let's go.
Yeah, and, just as, last Friday, I was on a call with Department of Health, Larry Schwartz, Gareth Rhodes, and Dr. Zucker. So at 2:30, 2:45 on a Friday afternoon, we're given information that is going to be effective Monday. Nobody has full health departments working over the weekend. But we're getting information at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon to be effective for Monday. This is what the state has done all along. And it's very frustrating, especially for the smaller, more rural counties like Greene, that may not have the available resources out there to be able to handle some of this stuff on a moment's notice. This one in particular, with the quarantines, has absolutely been a point of contention. Different.
Hey, Pat, is anything brought up about what if you test positive? You have the antibodies. It's just like getting a vaccine, no?
Yeah.
You still have to
You,
quarantine if you're.
If you're within 90 days of your positive test and that your symptoms have resolved, then you are not necessarily quarantined. We do have people who have the illness and test positive after multiple negative tests, test positive a second time and become ill a second time. So you can have it more than once. But during that first 90 days post-positive, there is a change in the quarantine where you will not necessarily become quarantined.
It's science, Matt.
If we can push some of this out to the public through our social media outlets, especially with the travel restrictions, exactly what we talked about here tonight, I think that would help the public.
It is. It's very frustrating. It's very confusing, especially for the public. It's confusing for public health when these regulations keep changing. From the, we were told we couldn't 65 plus. Every single day, we push for people with disabilities, we push for the comorbidities. It took weeks, but little by little, these things are finally starting to happen. And Friday afternoon was the one with 65 plus. We're going to be allotted, if we can use the Pfizer dose, we're going to be allotted Pfizer doses to be able to do those people. It's great. That's what we wanted. Why did it take so long? And why do we have literally less than one business day to figure that out?
But you pushed every day.
Every day, all the time. The county plans have been completely ignored. It turned into be a very confusing rollout. And it seems like they're starting to now roll toward what the county plans were to begin with.
When is our next dose of first vaccine coming in? Our next batch?
We actually get first doses every week. So generally, we'll order them on a Friday. We'll find out Sunday night or Monday what our allotment is. And then usually by Tuesday, we have them. Kim, did the 65 plus Modernas come in this week or not?
We have, it looks like 165 plus Modernas, which will be done. We have to finish up second dose pods this week. We did a first dose pod today. Second dose pods will be towards the end of the week. And then those first doses, some of which are 65 plus, will be on probably Monday. That's what we're scheduling. And we did go ahead and order Pfizer vaccine.
Okay.
So we'll see what we get.
When I talked to Dan yesterday, we had only gotten 200 of the 300 that we were allotted. So we weren't
correct. We got the last 100 at about 5:30 yesterday.
That's good. I'm glad we got them.
Right.
And
Yep.
that we're going to be able to use the Pfizer vaccine and be able to probably get some pretty significant numbers of doses for the county.
Kim,
With logistic change.
Kim, it's Linda. How
Yeah.
many actually signed up on the county site to receive vaccines? And how many have actually been able to do that so far?
You know what? I know that there are several thousand. Dan is tracking that, and he has them stratified into different categories. As far as who's been vaccinated, we've given out 2,705 first doses and 2,040 second doses.
Almost.
So we've used the vaccine that we have. As it comes in, we plan.
Okay.
Right.
That-
And as of today, I saw on the tracker, there's 6,325 people in Greene County, residents of Greene County that have received at least the first dose. So almost half of them, public health and emergency operations have put out.
And I've heard from dozens of people that participate in our pods. Every single one of them say how professional, how smooth, very quick, helpful. And he's there explaining. I was there Friday at Coxsackie, and I walked in while she was giving a speech. Everybody was paying attention. Some operation.
Yeah, it was, I did the Bethany Village one with Dan King, I did the first and second doses, and it was awesome operation, very professional, but what was really heartwarming is these seniors, for them, that is the light at the end of the tunnel for them, like they're crying as they're talking to me about how long they haven't seen their family, and this is giving them hope, and we have a great team in Greene County, really do. Awesome job.
Yeah, and they're proactive in everything that they've done. They don't move ahead with something until it's been planned and figured out. And it's turned out to actually save us a couple of times when vaccines didn't come in that we were supposed to get. We didn't have to call people back and cancel their appointments on them and those sort of things. So yeah, they've done an amazing job.
Yeah.
Kim, this is Mike. The new vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson one,
Yep.
is that going to be a pipeline for county residents?
We're placing an order. On Monday, we're placing an order. The approval is in. It's a single dose vaccine. We're in the midst of getting the guidance and the medical orders and so forth. That's all happening now. And we are hoping by Monday to place an order. Doesn't mean we're going to get it, but that is all in process now. We haven't seen any of the counties, at least in our capital district, receive it. So that's something we're anticipating in the next few weeks.
A lot of logistics on those lists, the Pfizer and the J&J, because of the freezing requirement. But once you pull those things, you only got a few hours.
But the Johnson & Johnson was
You know,
room
that's-
temperature.
The Johnson & Johnson is different.
Yeah,
And
Johnson,
the
Johnson,
Pfizer's been adjusted.
Pfizer's less, Moderna is a heavy freeze.
Right, but you know-
Johnson, Johnson's not.
When you think about what they're actually doing logistically, when we get these vaccines in, when you get the Moderna, which is what we've been getting, they're not just getting just a vaccine, they're getting a directive as to X number of doses for this population, and this population. And they have to be separated and accounted for those particular populations. Now, we're gonna add in the Pfizer vaccine, which has a little bit different method of dispersing it, because it's gotta be brought out, reconstituted and all of that. But you've also got to keep that separate. Now it's different lot numbers of different vaccines, so it's all got to be kept separately in the record keeping business. Now you're adding a third one in. So the logistics on the back side of this, I think drives Penny and Dan nuts a little bit sometimes, because they're not just receiving an unrestricted allotment, which we've also asked for. To stop with the restrictions on what we can put out and just let our public health departments decide where the priorities need to be within our counties. So far, that hasn't happened either. But great job, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your support.
Anything else for Tim? All right, thanks, Tim. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. You too.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
That's everybody? We are adjourned.
Well done,
It
Pat.
was almost a full hour.
Who doesn't do that?
It was early, getting home. He almost pulled
Don't
out
worry
his
about it.
glasses.
Mine's real quick.
Yeah, where's it?
Tommy, get ready, because you'll be up in about 30 seconds.
Open and close, Mike.
Oh, mine won't even open now.
All set.
Thank you, Tammy. I'd like to call County Resources to order at 7:03. We have no agenda items for the month of March here before us. One thing for Pat, the youth fair. Have you heard, are they gonna try to do anything with that?
I don't know what their committee is doing, but I did see today the announcement from the governor that as of April, they're looking at outdoor events.
200 people.
Is going to 200 people.
Yep.
But if you have a testing mechanism in place, it's 500.
Yeah.
That's for April.
April 2nd.
April, right?
So, it only stands to reason with the more vaccines that we get in arms and the more people that get vaccinated, that theoretically should loosen up.
I'll reach out to them to see what they might be thinking on that.
I mean, it's a guess, Mike, but.
Right. All right, anybody else with anything for County Resources?
I did see the college just got a Achieving the Dream Act grant, roughly $250,000. One of the biggest grants they got. Kudos to them.
Motion to adjourn, I had Lennon in a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Rivera, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
One comment about that Achieving the Dream grant that's in Positively Green for this week.
Orange newsletter.
Yeah, Orange newsletter.
We have quarters.
I'm all set.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, Thomas, listen up. Public Safety Committee, all in order. We have with us tonight the sheriff. Going to give us a jail update. Try not to be an hour like the previous committee. Not the previous one.
I believe you all have.
Yeah, just so you get closer to Mike, so we're gonna
You'll have the report.
put it on.
You'll have it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
All right, you all have the report, so I won't go through that, save a little bit of time, but I do have a couple things to add. Update on the jail, I think Sean will give that as well, but we are substantially complete. We're going through punch list items, trying to get the final touches on the building to make it our own and to be able to accept our workers and our employees. I do have a few things to add. We do have a few spots in the State Sheriff's Association Summer Camp in Penyon for July. If anybody knows any underprivileged children, we'd gladly take a couple more. A great camp. Also, I want to thank Warren and his staff. They did a tremendous job on a 25-page report for the Police Reinvention and Reform Committee. That's really all I have tonight besides the written report, unless there are any questions.
What kind of review tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow is, that's in the bottom of the report. We did get a favorable assessment, and tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. TCGS will be
voting on our accreditation. So,
Sheriff, final observation, I'd like to compliment you and your department, under sheriff and your leadership team and your deputies, making very good experience throughout the county, and like to compliment.
thank you very much.
Very nice.
Just keep Sheriff, maybe Sean would know, but how will it work with the administration component being complete in that building? Will you guys be able to move in before COC gives
Yes.
any USO?
Yeah,
Yes.
CSC is not on the non-secure
On that.
side at all, so as soon as we get to the punch list,
All right.
We're actually gonna pull the trailers out.
trailers, well, the transition trailer leaves on the 18th of this month,
Right.
so those people will move inside, in addition to the pipe people.
Yep.
We've had our first, I guess Mr. Sheriff said, let me give you an update. We've had our first impact of COVID on the jail, which was discussed at the jail committee construction meeting 2 weeks ago. If you can envision the recreation yards to each pod is, it's basically a 2-story glass wall as it faces out to the rec area. Glass wall, and the glass is tempered. The production company, when they rolled out the glass, their own quality review, the window panes they failed. So they rejected them and they went back into production, and then the plant came down with COVID.
Yeah.
So they shut the plant down. So what that does is, again, visualize this wall. Right now, there's just plywood in place where the glass is, so we don't have a complete seal, which then means we can't do our testing on fire drafting and haymack controls. So I'm anticipating that we're gonna miss our original completion date, which was the end of March anyways, because of the things we've pushed off, and I'll get to that in a minute. The glass is supposedly to be back in production, and they'll ship the glass around March 10th. And then as soon as that glass can, then the other corporations that have to do these testings, like the HAVAC system and the fire system, will then be able to do the testing. So it really doesn't, it changes the official completion date, but it really doesn't change our move-in dates per se. The sheriff, when his furniture begins to come in, and that'll come in over a number of weeks, we've always anticipated that sheriff administration would move in first, but the secure side will not move in until the CSC gives us the final go ahead. And the pods right now are not complete. We're still painting and those types of things. The part of the decisions that we made to extend the contract, we're like on the final asphalting with the parking lots and driveways, and then the landscaping. So we knew we were going to push out the final completion date anyway. It's really a paper entry to the overall project. Again, it doesn't really change our eventual, which I always anticipated was get July 1st of inmates moving in the house. I don't anticipate that's going to fail. The transition team has worked closely with the CSC during this whole mess. They've been out a number of times. Everything is moving along. There's been no issues that have been brought up. All their policies and procedures have been changed. It's really going to just be on the building itself. 2 weeks ago when the jail committee met, there were a few change orders. I just didn't get them for this agenda for tonight, but I also knew that we were going to have a second public safety committee meeting this month, a week from Monday, so I'll put those on as well. But we're still running a very healthy surplus. We're still over $500,000 just on the construction side. The administration side of the surplus, we haven't really tallied up yet, but that's going to add more money to the surplus as well. So everything's moving along. I try to send you pictures that Bruce sends every week and that kind of stuff. And he's also been sending some videos. If you haven't been in the jail in a while, I probably would recommend that you get in there pretty soon, because particularly the administration side, you can really see what offices look like now and how the layout is, and where's the front door, and then when you get into the visitation rooms, the kitchen, and all that, you can really start to see now where it was really more of a pure construction site. It can look like chaos all over the place. So it's really coming together. So what the punch list item, so every contractor puts its own punch list together. The transition team puts a punch list together. Pike puts a transition, a punch list together. And then what they do is they bang them all together, and then every week they check off. But I was in there yesterday, and you see people, the painters are going around and dollying up things that have been dinged and banged over the course of the winter. So we're getting close.
Yeah, the superintendent is also working with COC to see if, when the administration moves in, if we could actually move our intake to the intake portion of the jail and use that just to.
That's the question I was gonna ask.
That's a possibility.
Right, because we're still boarding out, but can we process and move out of 370?
Well, that's the question I was gonna have is now that they maybe move into the administration and if you can process at the new site, what do we want to do with that building? And
What's the $64 question on 370 Main Street, right? I mean, we really don't necessarily have a county purpose for it now. There was talk when we first moved in, it was have a small courtroom because there was a push to consolidate town courts, but that never happened. So we could, put the for sale sign back on it, which was kind of one of the two goals we had, where rather than continue to pay rent, we bought it, now we can sell it and basically, just get our money back again, presuming we sell it for what we paid for it. So, yeah, I think, I don't have a use for it. I don't really, I wouldn't move an apartment to it per se, it's too small for records management. So, yeah, maybe if we can move out administration and booking, then we can just pull stakes. What is that? What is that? So other than that, do you have anything else on the transition team or anything?
No, we met with the COC was there for medical portion of the building. Pleasantly surprised. When's the dental chair coming in? I was there yesterday.
So over the next, probably I hope in the April cycle, we want to bring to you the medical contract. In the old jail, we had a physician and one nurse. The physician now has moved on, he doesn't want to come back. And this was a decision to contract out this type of service and not have the employee base and the legacy costs and that kind of stuff. So I am still waiting for, we had a couple of national firms give us bids. We have one local firm that has given us a finished bid. I have a second local physician who's thinking he's going to submit a bid as well. I want to get all through that because you have to understand, you approve it in your April schedule, then they have to begin their own recruitment process. And part of the CFC approval process to give us a final COO certainly will be contingent upon having medical services available. Conversely, on the food service side, we decided to stay in the employment business for the food service side, but we will continue to use the New York State Correctional System as our primary provider of our food services because then we get the benefit of using their dietitian as well. We don't have to go out and contract with that dietitian, let's say like nutrition does today. In a facility like this, you're going to have a number of dietary issues that we have to provide. Mike, do you want to expand upon that?
You're going to have special diets and religious diets, so the state does it. That's right.
So the Department of Health is going to come down for an inspection, but this is really, at the end of the day, the permit on the kitchen is really the decision of the commission, correct? DOH is just going to be there for the sanitation side of things, not for the food prep side of things. So we're not interested. That is first inspection is the 18th of this month. And they know that we're really going to operate the same way we did in the old jail. So I expect a very quick review of that.
Does that kitchen have the possibility to make meals for other county needs, whether it's homeless or meals on?
Well,
wheels or whatever?
originally we talked about doing the nutrition program in the same house. At that time, the menus are so different. The Meals on Wheels caloric content is gonna be so much different than inmate content. So at the time, the only thing we decided we could do is jointly buy dry goods together. Okay, but they would still make their own meals at their own site. But then the second thing we have is the transport. So going from Coxsackie with prepared food to the mountaintop is a long drive, and we're gonna have that cooling down side of the house then. So going back to original design, the final decision was that nutrition would not use the same kitchen. I was a little wishy-washy on that, but the meal selection is really totally, really nice. But if we can, if Ginsburg can deliver the same dry goods and, a large can of sauce or whatever, then we can just distribute from there, that would be a good way to go.
And it might not be a bad idea to have human services in there. Take a look at it, now that it's up and operational, have a look at it, see if there's those types of logistics can be worked out. We'll see. When it's just on paper, they weren't too keen on it, but the kitchen's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a state of the art.
I mean, we talked about using storage too, remember?
Yes, the dry goods, yeah, the dry goods, yeah.
So
But the kitchen is gorgeous.
we gotta take advantage of it,
So if you haven't been out in a while, I really would encourage you. And we're there every Tuesday morning. Our meetings usually go to about 11. So if you wanted to come out any of the next, pick 5 Tuesdays, we're typically, we start at 9 o'clock for the construction discussion. I usually last till 10:30, 11, and then if you want to go in from there, you get a look at things. It's really, as I say, you can really see it's an office now. Not chaos in construction.
And if anybody can make it, we can certainly make arrangements to take you there anytime.
Oh, that's true.
If you're driving on your own, you're gonna get pulled over.
Not trying to track.
Not if you're on a track.
Not too much today, huh?
It's just weird. Don't let that out, right?
Okay, then off of the jail, as Pete referenced, and kudos to Warren, the police report now is out. We've had many meetings with the committee. Last week, we went through a 54-page PowerPoint presentation with them, and then the PowerPoints are not final reports. So that's now been condensed down to 25 pages or whatever the final report is. So now that it's public, we will hold a public meeting on that next week. This will be contentious because just the way we're Zooming tonight, we will have a Zoom meeting for the committee. Will Zoom in here for you. You could ask the Zoom the committee members questions live, and then we will open it to the public as well. But obviously, the public has to be controlled because of distancing and that kind of stuff. So we will advise people that they can make a reservation, call my office, and you can make a reservation to speak. And I certainly anticipate people not only coming here, but also complaining that we're not Zooming. Zooming is, in my memo out to you last week, some communities have gone live, and it's turned into complete chaos. People hacking it, and go ahead.
I don't know if there's certain groups that might want to voice their opinions in public or whatever coming forward, but if you can reach out to them and have them have a spokesperson, so it's more organized. And they can state that, hey, listen, I represent 25 people that are, in this group, but I'm here. So it stays.
Rather than all 25 coming. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And theoretically, really the best way, if somebody has a comment, a question, a suggestion, is to go right through the website.
Right.
Go on the sheriff's tab, and the portal is right there with all of the minutes and agendas and
Everybody sees the question.
but there's also an avenue there to submit to the committee, and then we would actually have that in front of us that night.
Gotcha.
And the committee would have it as well. That's probably the most efficient way, and then nobody really has to come down to the county office building at all.
Right.
We've been looking at other county submittals, and they really go the gambit. From one county has a 2-page report, another county's got a 200-page report. So it's really And a lot of that depends upon the type of county. The bigger the county has resulted in a larger report, and also the number of police districts within that, particularly if you have a city within your county. Even though they have their own requirements to do their own report, like our 7 subdivisions, our 4 towns and our 3 villages, again, have to issue their own report. The county report does not fulfill their obligation to file a report. So then we would have that public hearing here on the 10th, which is tonight. Presuming a question or a comment came in and we want to change the report, then we'll do that after the 10th. And then it's going to come back on that Monday night, the 15th, at the next Public Safety Committee meeting for that approval there. And then Wednesday night on the the 17th, we'll have the final adoption. And then we send it off to the state and meet our April 1st deadline. So there's 25 recommendations there. If you have now gone through it. Some of them are minor, some of them are big. And they're recommendations. So then your job thereafter will be to either appropriate funds if it's required, or whatever the item may be. The sheriff has been to every meeting as well, and staff. So this, as I said to you, this will be, I think for some people, this will be controversial. I think some people will say we didn't go far enough with changes. My biggest complaint is the governor's examples of tragedies that have happened across the country have all happened in major metropolitan cities. Wayne County is not New York City, not Minneapolis. Doesn't mean we don't have issues, but the types of things that they want to address don't have. I'm not kidding you, but the last time a firearm was discharged was to euthanize a deer that had been hit by a car someplace. What in New York City? How many times is a firearm being used down there? And that statement I made publicly, and I've been criticized for that statement because why should we think that we don't have the same issues like New York City? Well, I don't think we do. It doesn't mean we don't have racism in our community. We do. But my biggest contention with this whole report is you can't cookie cutter across every community in the state. It's not going to be the same policing policies in every city, every town. Just because they have it next door doesn't necessarily mean we have that, or vice versa. So I would encourage you to read it. I would encourage you to read all the background information because we've given this committee, Warren, how many pages? Hundreds of pages of documentation.
500 pages in the appendices and on
I'd be easily looking at probably 1,000 hours and Warren probably got into developing all of this, getting the information for the committee, and doing the meetings. But the final draft report, I thought just looks great. It's very professionally done. It's very to the point. And I think it's easy to read. But I think that if anybody reads that report before they make comments, should probably go back and look at all the topics that were discussed by the committee, because not all the topics that were discussed made it into the final report. And again, that was a decision of that committee. It was a very diverse group. And I think that committee themselves learned a lot about the criminal justice system. We had the sheriff's office was part of it, the district attorney's office, the public defender's office were all there to give the legal point of view. But that committee, I think they did a great job. I think they spent a lot more time volunteering than what they thought they might.
It's true, and they were pretty loyal too. They made
they were interested.
I think 80% of that group was there every meeting, made every Zoom meeting. Asked a lot of questions. There was a lot of deliberation, a lot of good questions. I do anticipate when we discussed things and even when we debated things, I said to the group, you have the ability to dissent on one of these items. Let's say, I know one of the items is gonna be dispatch. And said, again, one of the things that the governor's report suggested was not sending a law enforcement on a call, send a social worker. We absolutely rejected that idea. I think there's gonna be someone on the committee who's gonna say, no, we should send a social worker out before we send law enforcement. So my point being, we gave the committee members the ability to dissent. That this wasn't a, damn it, thank you very much, sign here. So I think you'll get some of that, which I think is honest, and I think it's good. But I'm a believer, dispatchers are not clinicians. Dispatchers should get on that call, make a decision to send a fire truck or an EMT or a law enforcement vehicle, and not get into what's going on and who's involved. The sheriff gave us a very emotional YouTube to watch. If you watch that YouTube, you would never want a social worker going to that call, because that is an absolute tragedy. Could have been a social worker who was involved in that tragedy, to take on first. My opinion is de-escalate the situation and then bring it to social worker. Not the other way around. Don't escalate it, then try to bring it off. But anyways, they were given the opportunity to dissent. I think Wednesday night, you may hear some of that. Great, it's fine. But at the end of the day, this is a recommendation to you. You can accept it, and you can dissent as well. Some of them will be money driven and some of them won't. So, Charlie, I'm sorry, I ran away with your committee meeting.
I will lose control. Okay,
As John waits patiently.
John Farrell's still with us. You have a report?
Yep, should be in your desk.
All right.
So there.
Muted.
Mary Jo probably muted him.
There you go.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody.
We got.
Just want to go over just a few things. The calls for this past month, EMS, we had 417 calls, fire 177, police 916, unknowns 659 with a total of 2,169. Last week, I sent a letter to our wireless carriers stating that Greene County Emergency Service was ready to start to deploy text to 911 service. Over the last, I would have to say at least 10 months, Neil Kelleher has been working with AK Associates to get it to this level. And we're in the testing mode now with those wireless carriers. Within the next 6 to 8 weeks, that should be completed. Regarding the state fire training, we're trying this class for the basic exterior firefighting operation blended virtual. It's a new course where the students can stay home, and instead of coming to class, they have a certain number of weeks to complete the courses instead of the classroom online at their leisure. And they have certain dates to complete and then come out to the training center to do the practical. And we have 20 students taking advantage of that right now. The Fire Advisory Board will start up this month on March 18th at 7 o'clock in the multi-purpose room. And of course, we'll be following all the CDC guidelines. Brian Keeler from Columbia Memorial Hospital sent me an email late last week letting us know that they have now opened up the hospital, and there are also their locations for firefighters to start up their physicals for the fire districts in both counties. Monday night, the windstorm that came through, I have to say that NICEC and Central Hudson, their communication, I can't say enough. They were on the phone almost every 2 to 3 hours with updates. They communicated. Most of the damage was basically in the town of Hunter, Jewett, and Lexington. And they had very good follow-ups with the town supervisors and of course my office. The county hazmat team this past month responded to Columbia County on mutual aid into Germantown. And the fire investigation team had a total of 2 calls in February. And the The EOC operation at the office continues to be going quite well. And the two girls, Heidi and Danielle, they spend most of their days calling all the individuals that are getting scheduled for the next pod. They spend almost every day at least 7 hours a day just following up. And I think between what's happening in those two classrooms and my two employees there, I think that's what really makes the pods go pretty smooth with all the planning that Penny and Dan are doing up at the office. And tonight you have a resolution there basically giving us permission to move forward to advertise for bids for the new tower at the town of Hunter's office complex. And that's all I got. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, John, it's Mike. When you say unknown on your call, what does that mean?
What's that? I didn't hear you.
You've got your list of the calls that were received, EMS, fire, police.
Oh, yeah.
What's unknown? What's that?
Okay, unknown, for example, is a person might be going up the New York State Thruway, breaks down, and they'll be calling into our station, into our 911 center, and we transfer that call to Albany. That's basically all we are, is like a relay, for example, to the Albany Thruway Authority.
Gotcha.
Those calls like that.
Thank you.
Hearing none, continue on.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, John.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, three proposed resolutions. The first is authorizing advertising for bids, Green County Emergency Service, Hunter Town Hall Communication Site.
Handle.
Sandal, Thornton seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. Number two, amending resolution number 54-21, appointing members to the Green County Fire Advisory Board 2021.
Handle.
Thornton will do that one as well. Handle, Thornton, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. Number three, reappointing members, Green County Traffic Safety Board. Leonard, I'll second it. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Same. Opposed, that's carried. Some informational items. So let's move forward. Is there anything else on the floor? Public safety.
Motion to close.
I'll second that.
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay. Get 10
Good night, everybody.
Lawrence, notify us, you got us in too.
Thank you.